Look, sometimes you gotta outgrow your friends. Sometimes you gotta outgrow relationships. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be sticky. But in life, there are times when you have to outgrow your friendships and you have to outgrow relationships. Now, sometimes it's easier when it's just beef, when it's drama, because it's a little bit more clear cut why you don't fuck with that person no more. But sometimes you just outgrow them, almost like clothes. You've been wearing the same clothes and outfits for 2, 3, 4 years, and you wonder why they don't fit the same. Because you outgrew them. You either got bigger and now they're tight on you and shrinking on you, or you lost weight and now they're big on you. But things have changed. And a lot of times things change because you don't want to do the stupid shit that person is still doing. You want to do bigger and better things, and that person ain't really on that page. Or the way that y'all used to be cool doesn't apply anymore. That was how we got cool then, doing what we did then for the circumstances that was then. This is now, and shit has changed. Back then, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. Now I know people. I know some things. Back then I was broke. Now I got money. Back then I was single. Now I'm married. Like, whatever the situation is, the circumstances have kind of changed. And if the relationship didn't evolve, you still got to keep evolving. Just because the relationship don't evolve, don't mean that you can't continue to evolve. And so some people get stuck in a relationship where the relationship doesn't evolve, and that starts to make them miserable, or they themselves can't evolve in their relationship, and that starts to make them miserable, and then look at that other person like... So now this is from the perspective of someone who's still in their 40s. Clock is ticking. I'm a young Gen Xer. So this is from someone here. When you're younger, you might see things differently. When you're a lot older, you might see things differently. But there's times in life when you got to outgrow your friendship. I guess friendships are relationships too, so they're all relationships. There's times when you got to outgrow this relationship that I have with this person, or this relationship, which never was anything before. This has started to become something because of A, B, and C. Like I said, I don't want to do that stuff before, so now I'm doing new stuff, and now this is something that you and I share in common. Example, had one friend, wasn't really the best with managing his money. Money came in, he spent it, have a good time. When money was out, he was broke, he was hurting. And so, that could be a young thing, that could be a socioeconomic thing, how you came up, or, where you grew up, the hood, the burbs, wherever. Around money, not around money. But at some point in time, you would think you would want to get better. You would want to get smarter. You would want to get more usage out of your money. Make more money and get more of a yield, more of a return on it. I'm an entrepreneur, business owner, so I'm all about yield and return. So when we're younger, like, hey, that money come in, let's go spend it, let's go get girls, let's go get rides, let's go take trips, let's go do this and that, let's go get drugs, let's live it up, because we got it. We young and he had it. He was on that tip. I was making money when I was younger. I wasn't an entrepreneur yet, so I was struggling with it. So that's my homeboy. He got it, we spending it. But when he broke, when he hurt, he don't know how to flip that. So what he started getting into was credit card debt. Not fraud, but just straight like, we still young, and when you young, they toss credit cards at you. That's a whole nother story. So we young, we college age, they tossing credit cards his way. He taking it. When he got the money, he's spending his money. When he don't got the money, he using the credit cards. Almost the exact backwards of what you're supposed to do. You find this out when you get older, when you grow a little bit. It's counterintuitive. But you should really use the credit cards when you already got the money. When you start using the credit cards because you don't got the money, it's not in the pipeline, that's when you get hurt. That's when they got you. So really, you want to use the credit cards when you got... Had he had the money, been using the credit cards, and then paying off the credit card bills with the money, this nigga, woo, he'd be owning plots of land and have equity in businesses and this and that. But instead, he was burning the money and then rescuing himself with the credit and then never paying off the credit. So this is what I'm saying. At some point in time, also being young and dumb and not using credit the right way. But you get a little bit smarter. You grow a little bit, hopefully. You say, man, let me not use my credit card on these frivolous things. These things I don't need to. These is luxuries. Where I'm at in my lifestyle right now, college age, early 20s, these is luxuries for me to take these trips and this and that. Let me use this money in a smarter way. Let me use this credit in a smarter way. And we get older, he never changed. So he never upped his skills in a certain way, where he had better occupations or made certain investments. He never really improved the way that he was getting money. And then he fucked his credit up from years of maxing out credit cards and then, higher interest rates and this and that, and get to a point where you can't get no credit cards. And then after several years, finally getting one, and then repeating and doing the same thing. Spending it when you don't got it and never paying the bill. And so, whereas I started improving my shit. Now, that doesn't make me better than him. But I'm saying in that aspect, it's like we're not going to be able to hang and do certain things as much because this is how you still do. And I'm trying to outgrow that. I have outgrown that. So we still cool. But I'm saying that's one aspect, one angle of a relationship of how things can change. Because someone wants to do better. Someone is not doing better. They still doing the same thing. Or just circumstantially, we don't line up anymore on the same way. So he still wants to do certain things and not really think about the expense of it. Whereas I'm like, look, man, these expenses got to fit into a grand plan. Now, of course, you still want to live. Who says that we get any extra time out here? Nothing is guaranteed. But if I do get to live till tomorrow, I'd like to have a little bit more bread tomorrow than I had today. I don't know. Is that like a ridiculous thought? But some people live for the moment, live for today. Well, then tomorrow when you hurt, how you live in tomorrow is how you live today is reflective of how you lived yesterday. How you live tomorrow is reflective of how you live today. So if you burning through your cash and destroying your credit today, how you think you're going to live tomorrow? So that's just one aspect of just outgrowing an activity, outgrowing the way you see things, outgrowing a perspective. And sometimes that leads to outgrowing a relationship, outgrowing a friendship. I was just talking to a friend of the family today. She's still family. But I just say friend of the family because she divorced the actual family member of mine because she outgrew him. And I mentioned this in another previous video, so go check out some of the other videos in the channel catalog. I talk about different shit from a young Gen X perspective. And she divorced her husband, my cousin, because she outgrew him. And, no one ever knows both sides of the story. And even the people in a relationship sometimes still don't know everything about the relationship. So I'm not going to act like I know anything about the relationship. But from the different little stuff that I do know, yeah, she outgrew him. And women are at an age, this generation of Gen X women, millennial women, Gen Z women, and then getting younger and younger, they're in a better place where they can go it on their own. Or they can recalibrate and be like, you know what, you and me, we did our time. We did our thing. Now I'm trying to do better. I need to outgrow you. So she outgrew him. In their relationship, they were married, had kids, raised kids, got them up to college age and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And at long story short, at some point in time, she was like, dude, I'm not able to evolve the way that I want to evolve with you. You're preventing me from evolving because like I stated in the lifeguard example, sometimes someone can be pulling you down in such a way that you have to push away from them in order to save yourself. They're pulling you down. They're drowning. They're going down in a certain way, and they're pulling you down. And you might have to punch them in the face, kick them in the chest to get away because you can't save them, much less yourself, if they're pulling you under. And that's what a lot of times people feel. A lot of women, men too, but a lot of women have felt that way for generations. But now more and more women have the ability, the capacity, the resources to make the move, to make the separation if they so choose. So long story short, she outgrew this motherfucker. What can you say? What can you do? You tell her not to grow? Tell her to stay? Same way I say a lot of times a dude should not stick around in a relationship. And oh, he's a good man if he sticks around and bit by bit shrinks and dissolves and deteriorates because his spirit is gone. No one gives a fuck, but he's there. Same thing about a woman. I feel the same way for women. Fuck that. Oh, she's a good woman because she stuck around and played her role and played her part that this man needed her to play so that he could feel good about himself. And she could never evolve and grow. Fuck that. Fuck that. So, even if it ever happens in any of my relationships, grow. I would never now reach for that sun. Reach for that sun. Gobble up all the fucking water and soil you need. Reach for that sunlight. Who in the fuck am I? Who in the fuck am I to keep you from reaching your sunlight? To keep you from growing? So, there are many women who now have the capacity, the ability to say, you know what? I can't grow with you. I can't grow with you. I love you. I've got love for you. I wish the best for you. I want you to find your happiness. But who knows how much time that I have left. We've done our thing. We've made our mark. Whether you started a family, got married, whatever it is, we had our time. We had our moments. And now I want to continue to grow and evolve. And I don't think I can do that with you. And now that sets up a challenge for that other person in the situation, that man in that relationship, to either step his game up or evolve in a way that they still have something in common, their bridge still matches, or deal with the fact that she's gone. Hall of Notes, she gone. But in life, in many relationships, now sometimes relationships grow stronger, or it was nothing. That seed didn't grow for years. I thought that seed was dead, and now look at it. You know what I'm saying? Something changed. The light got repositioned. You know, we dug it up and replanted it, whatever. And here's another thing too you got to think about, because you know I'm always gonna hit you with some type of metaphor or an analogy. In terms of outgrowing a relationship, for something to grow, for something to really grow, think about this, for something to really grow, it needs what? Not just height, not just expanse. It needs a foundation. If you're talking about plants, but it's applicable to relationships, it needs roots. Nice, thick, strong roots. It would be virtually impossible for something to grow and sustainably be able to grow with a weak foundation, without strong enough roots. It could easily fall over, be chopped down, right? So, relationships, the longer you're with someone, on a certain level, you need those roots to grow thicker and stronger for that relationship to grow. If the roots don't grow thicker and stronger, that's fine. But that means that that relationship can only go to a certain level. And of course, there are no real roots, there's no real foundation, then there isn't much of a relationship. So this is what I mean. Sometimes the length of time that you've known someone provides a certain thickness to their roots, provides a certain foundation. Like I say, I have some friends that I've had to outgrow, that I've known since 4th grade. Knew each other from 4th grade to 40. That's a nice thick root there. And yet things change, things evolve, where even the thickness of that root now only allows that relationship to grow so far. And so it reached a certain point where I had to outgrow that relationship. The fact that we've known each other from 4th grade to 40 wasn't enough for me to still want to put in the time and energy into that relationship. Different things had changed. So essentially what I'm getting to is, in order for a relationship to continue to grow, the roots have to continue to grow. The core reason why we're cool together, the core ways in which we connect, in which we relate with each other, that has to continue to be fueled. It has to continue to be acknowledged. It has to continue to be, generated. Some people have relationships. It's like, yeah, I've known this dude since I was 5 years old, but we haven't been friends since I was 10 years old, and I'm 67 years old. So the length of that relationship doesn't really matter. You stopped being cool a long time ago. You see what I'm saying? So certain aspects for a relationship to continue to grow, there still has to be a connection in that relationship that continues to regenerate. I've said this a lot of times to different people that I know of in the relationships that they've been going through. Long-term relationship, you're going to have some fights. You're going to have some conflicts. In many ways, you will hurt the person you care about more than anybody else will. But that's the person you care the most about, and yet you will hurt them more than anybody else. But within that dynamic, there has to be something that continues to bring you back. You're going through a rough patch. You're spending time away from each other. You're doing fewer things together. It happens. It happens. It's, ride the wave. It happens. But there has to be some core thing that brings you back to that person. There has to be some core root that continues to pump blood, continues to pump nutrients, continues to generate, continues to be vibrant. That it might have been dormant for a moment, and then it came back to life. You felt it pulse. You know what I'm saying? You felt the energy in it. That's why I like you. That's why I'm in a relationship with you. That's why I come to see you. That's why we fuck with each other. There has to be something that brings you back to that person. Otherwise, that root might have some thickness to it. There might be a foundation there a little bit. But we've reached the limit of how far it can grow. And like I say, there's some relationships, there never was much of a foundation there. It was circumstantial. The roots were never very thick, just wide enough for something to pass through, but it's nothing. So those relationships can only be. So in life, the more years you have, the more experiences you have, the more things you go through, things change, things evolve, butterfly effect. This one little change here, who knows the range of outcomes it could produce. But when it comes to the core shit, when it comes to things below the surface, which are those roots, which is that foundation. Like I say, I mention this different stuff in some of my other videos because I'm speaking on things from a young Gen X perspective, from a 40-year-old perspective. So I've seen a few things, but I haven't seen everything. But the real shit in life, the shit that's below the surface, like a foundation, like roots for a plant, they have to continue to be strong. You have to continue to support it in order for that relationship, for that building, for that plant to grow. You have to. And sometimes in life, you outgrow a friendship. You outgrow a relationship. There was no beef. There was no drama. Nothing for real happened. Nobody said, fuck you, I'm not hanging out with you no more, I'm going to beat your ass, or this and that. Nobody, I dissolved doing business with you, let's end our partnership. There was no real beef. But below the surface, someone recognized these roots are not growing. These roots are not pumping out anything new. This foundation is only as strong as it had been. So in order for it to grow, We got to expand the foundation. If we can't really expand the foundation, like, long story short, and then I'll close out with this. I had 2 friendships. I might have mentioned this in some other videos. I had 2 friendships, long-term friendships. But basically for the same reason, I changed things. I can admit that I changed things because I felt like who I wanted to be, what I was trying to become, the core things that I wanted to improve upon, I couldn't do hanging with these 2 dudes. But I got love for them. Nothing bad happened, no beef, no drama. But in me, I was like, I can't be spending the amount of time that I have been spending with them, because the results that I want to come up with, I will never come up with hanging with them. And then bit by bit, by bit, by bit, we never saw each other anymore. I got one friend, I haven't seen him almost 25 years. My best friend. For about 6-7 years, my best friend. And then, long story short, I'll make another video about it, or maybe I talk about it or something. And then my other friend, we stopped fucking with each other in my 40s. Like I said, we knew each other from 4th grade to 40. And then something happened where I was like, man, the person that I'm trying to be, where I'm trying to get to, would not be over here wasting time talking about the same old shit, going nowhere, rehashing same old plans. The person that I'm trying to be would be so fucking far above this, and I can't evolve in the way that I want to evolve. Kicking it with my homeboy. I gotta be more judicious. I gotta be more selective with my time with him, because my time with him is not gonna produce the returns that I want to get out of my life. So there's nothing per se wrong with this person, but there is an adjustment in me. And so that's what I'm saying. You feel the need, you feel the necessity. It's almost in a certain way like you feel like you're starting to get choked out. You need that root to be bigger. You need to pump more nutrients, more energy, more blood, sweat, and tears through those roots. You need to expand that foundation because you're trying to get higher. And fucking with this person, I can't. It's too hard. But this is really important to me. So whether it's a friendship or it's a relationship with someone where, like I say, you're getting divorced. Man divorcing a woman, woman divorcing a man, society looks at him a little bit differently. It's another video, another story. The core of it is that many times, without the drama, without something scandalous having happened, a lot of times someone just outgrows the other person. And what are you going to say? Stop evolving? Don't grow? Even in my relationships, if there was an opportunity, if they needed to leave me to grow, and I'm not saying that bitterly, I'm saying I care about you in the way that I care about you, that I would want to see you grow. Don't let me hold you back. So it'll be hard, it'll be hurtful, but I'd much rather see you grow and know that that's the type of love that I had for you, that I was willing to let you go to let you grow. Some people, their love is a lot more selfish than that. You can only grow with me. You leave and you grow, then you left me. There's a lot of people, I gotta smoke on that, because that's the cause of a lot of heartache in terms of once the breakup happens, or a lot of heartache because the breakup never really happens. Because the person who wants to evolve, the person who wants to grow, they're getting guilted by the other person who won't grow. You can't grow without me. If you leave me and then grow, that means you left me. You left me behind. I'm a Sigma male, bro. You don't get left behind. You find your own fucking way. You don't get left behind. You are where you let yourself be. So, but like I say, man divorcing a woman, woman divorcing a man, it's still a relationship. Whether it's your homeboy, it's your homegirl, maybe it's work, maybe it's occupational. You've been at this job 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They expect you to be there. They need you. They counting on you. Yeah, but I want to outgrow this. I want to do more. I remember another friend was talking about his situation at his job. Worked at a security company, but he did data entry at the security company. He used to do security, kind of got bumped up a little bit, making a little bit more, and now he was doing data entry or something. It's a few years ago, a decade or so ago. Anyway, long story short, he's trying to negotiate to get a little bit more money from the job. And they, come to him with the offer, and they're like, yeah, this is the offer. You should be happy with this offer. And I don't know if he actually said this to the person, but I remember he said this to me when he was telling me the story. He was like, you would kill yourself if this was what you were offered. You would leave this company if this is what they were paying you. So why should I be happy with this being what you're paying me? Now, of course, the skill set, experience level, there's differences in why people get paid differently. But the point being, which he was saying, which I felt was, you think I should be happy with the ceiling that you're putting on me. But maybe I want to outgrow that ceiling. How can I outgrow that ceiling with you? And if you're saying, look, you should be happy, you got a roof over your head. You're like, fuck you and your roof. How about that? And that's ultimately what happens in those relationships. Like I say, it could be friendships, it could be actual intimate relationships, or it could be your work relationship. When you reach a certain point where you feel like you want to evolve, you want more, and this other person is either preventing you from doing it, saying that you don't deserve it, or just unaware, like just obtuse to the fact that you might want to do better, you might have to bounce. You might have to outgrow that relationship. And I would say that if it was my woman leaving me, if it was my kids in their relationship falling apart, it is what it is. In life, you want to grow, because if you don't grow, you become stagnant. And then after stagnation, you start to decay. A certain type of mental and physical, emotional, spiritual rigor mortis starts setting in, where you just can't do anything anymore. You can't be, you know what I'm saying? It just, whatever comes your way, comes your way. And what comes your way will eventually be death, nothingness, or at least in this experience. I personally think that this life is like some type of avatar experience for another video. Anyway, but my point in conclusion is that if you're not growing and you're in a friendship, a relationship, an occupation where they don't want you to grow, you might have to get out of that relationship. Straight up. It's your boy. I'll let you.